Lila Brooks stepped out of her car and looked up at the grand entrance of Haven Crest Hotel, the crown jewel of luxury in the city. The towering building, a gleaming structure of glass and steel, reflected the evening sunlight. Lila's heart fluttered with a mixture of pride and excitement. Her father, Henry Brooks, had recently acquired this prestigious hotel, and tonight they were celebrating his new venture. She walked confidently toward the entrance, her heels clicking on the marble steps, her chic black dress fluttering in the cool evening breeze. As Lila entered the grand lobby, her eyes took in the opulence, the crystal chandeliers, the plush velvet couches, and the marble floors that seemed to stretch endlessly. She smiled, feeling an overwhelming sense of belonging. Tonight was supposed to be a family affair, a private dinner to mark her father's achievement. But she had no idea the evening would take a shocking turn that would alter the hotel forever. Lila approached the reception desk, where a woman with a stiff expression and pale skin stood behind the counter. Her name tag read Carla Simmons. Carla was busy typing away on her computer, not bothering to look up as Lila reached the desk. "Good evening," Lila greeted, her tone polite but firm. "I have a reservation for dinner with Mr. Brooks." Carla finally looked up, her eyes scanning Lila's appearance. There was an unmistakable flicker of disdain in her gaze as she sized up the young black woman standing in front of her. Without saying a word, Carla's fingers danced over the keyboard as she pretended to check the reservation list. "I'm sorry, but I don't see your name here," Carla said, her voice cold and dismissive. "We don't allow walk-ins. Dinner is by reservation only." Lila's smile faltered. "Could you check again, please? My father, Henry Brooks, should have made a reservation for us this evening." Carla's lips curled into a condescending smirk. "I've checked. No reservations under that name." She looked directly into Lila's eyes, her expression hardening. "You don't belong here." Lila's stomach tightened, and her hands clenched into fists. She'd faced subtle racism before, but this blatant hostility took her by surprise. Her heart raced as anger simmered beneath her calm exterior, but she refused to give Carla the satisfaction of seeing her lose her composure. "I see," Lila said, her voice steady though her heart was pounding. "I'll speak with my father about this." Without another word, Lila turned on her heel and walked out of the hotel, her chest heaving with frustration. She had hoped tonight would be a joyous occasion, but Carla's treatment had dampened her spirits. As she exited the hotel, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of humiliation. But this wasn't the end. She knew that much. Back inside the hotel, Carla straightened up at the desk, feeling quite pleased with herself. "People should know their place," she muttered under her breath. She had no idea that her small victory would soon unravel into her worst nightmare. Unbeknownst to Carla, Henry Brooks had just arrived at Haven Crest. Tall and imposing, with salt and pepper hair and a sharp suit, he exuded authority as he strode into the lobby. His mere presence sent a ripple of urgency through the staff. Everyone knew who Henry Brooks was, the new owner of Haven Crest, a man known for his high standards and no-nonsense approach. Carla, however, was still oblivious. She was too busy imagining how her efficient handling of the front desk would soon earn her praise from the new management. She glanced at Henry as he passed by, not recognizing him as the man whose daughter she had just turned away. Minutes later, the hotel manager, a balding man named Walter Green, hurried toward the reception desk. His face was pale, and his hands trembled as he approached Carla. "Carla, there's a problem," he stammered. "Mr. Brooks's daughter was here earlier, and there seems to have been a misunderstanding." Carla's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice suddenly shaky. Walter's eyes were filled with dread. "The woman you turned away, Lila Brooks, that's Mr. Brooks's daughter." The world seemed to tilt for Carla. Her breath caught in her throat, and her palms grew clammy. She tried to speak, but no words came out. All she could see in her mind was Lila's face, the quiet dignity she'd exuded despite being humiliated at the reception desk. "Oh no," Carla whispered, her face draining of color. "I didn't know." "It doesn't matter," Walter said gravely. "You need to apologize immediately." Carla's heart raced as she spotted Henry Brooks approaching the reception desk. His expression was calm, but his eyes blazed with authority. He stopped in front of Carla, his towering presence making her feel small and insignificant. "Miss Simmons, I'd like a word," Henry said, his voice low but full of tension. Carla swallowed hard. "Mr. Brooks, I didn't know," she stammered, her voice trembling. "It was a mistake, I thought." "You thought what?" Henry interrupted, his voice cutting through her feeble excuse. "You thought because she didn't look like the usual guests here, she didn't belong?" Carla's throat tightened. She wanted to protest, to explain herself, but she knew deep down that there was no justification for what she had done. Her actions had been driven by prejudice, and now she had to face the consequences. "I didn't expect this to happen in my hotel," Henry continued, his tone growing firmer. "We do not tolerate discrimination here, Miss Simmons. Every guest, regardless of who they are or what they look like, deserves to be treated with respect." Carla's knees felt weak, and tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I know I was wrong. I'll do anything to make it right." Henry regarded her for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then, with a sigh, he stepped back and spoke in a calmer tone. "Apologies are a start, but they're not enough," he said. "You will undergo training to address your biases, and only after you've proven that you've learned from this will you be allowed to continue working here. Consider this your second chance." Carla's eyes widened in shock and relief. She had expected to be fired on the spot. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I won't let you down." Henry nodded, then turned and walked away, leaving Carla to grapple with the magnitude of her mistake. Weeks passed, and Haven Crest began to change. Henry Brooks implemented mandatory diversity training for all staff, determined to foster an environment of respect and inclusivity. Carla attended every session, feeling a mixture of shame and determination. She knew she had a long road ahead of her, but she was willing to put in the effort to change. As the days turned into weeks, Carla's behavior at the reception desk changed as well. She greeted every guest with a genuine smile, regardless of their appearance. She listened more, judged less, and gradually earned back the respect of her colleagues. One afternoon, Henry Brooks returned to the hotel for a routine visit. Carla watched him from a distance, her heart pounding in her chest. She wondered if he had noticed the changes she'd made. She hoped he would see that she was trying to be better, that she wasn't the same person who had once turned away his daughter. But Henry didn't stop to speak with her that day. He simply walked by, his expression neutral. For Carla, that was enough. She took it as a small sign of approval. The true test came when Lila Brooks returned to Haven Crest for another visit. Carla saw her enter the lobby and felt her stomach twist with anxiety. Lila looked just as poised and confident as she had the last time, but there was no longer any trace of hurt in her eyes. Carla took a deep breath and approached Lila with a polite smile. "Good afternoon, Miss Brooks," she said, her voice steady and sincere. "Everything is ready for your stay. I hope you'll find everything to your satisfaction." Lila studied Carla for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Thank you," she replied. "I can see things have changed here. I hope it's not just for me." Carla's breath caught in her throat, but she managed to smile. "It's not," she said softly. "It's for everyone." With a slight nod, Lila turned and headed toward the restaurant where her father was waiting. Carla watched her go, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. She knew she still had work to do, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was on the right path. As months passed, Haven Crest became a beacon of change in the city. Under Henry's leadership, the hotel was no longer just a symbol of luxury. It was a place where every guest, regardless of who they were, was treated with dignity and respect. Carla, once a symbol of bias, became an example of redemption and growth, a reminder that change was possible if one was willing to learn. The hotel, now more than ever, radiated not just wealth, but the values of equality, kindness, and true hospitality.